The sun rose over the bustling campus of Mzansi University, casting a warm glow on the red brick buildings. Students hurried to their classes, their chatter filling the air with a sense of excitement and anticipation. Among them was Zola, a spirited and confident young woman known for her unique sense of style. Today, Zola wore a short, vibrant skirt that swayed with every step, paired with high heels that clicked rhythmically against the pavement. Her makeup was bold and colourful, reflecting her vibrant personality. As she walked through the campus, heads turned and whispers followed her. Mzansi University had recently implemented a strict dress code, aiming to promote a more conservative and professional environment. However, Zola believed that self-expression was just as important as academic achievement. She saw the new rules as a challenge, a way to stand up for her beliefs and inspire others to do the same. As she entered the main building, she could feel the disapproving eyes of some faculty members. She knew that her outfit would not go unnoticed, especially by the principal, Mr. Dlamini, who was known for his strict adherence to the rules. But Zola was undeterred. She held her head high, ready to face whatever consequences might come her way. The day had just begun, and Zola was determined to make her mark, one step at a time. Zola's morning classes passed in a blur of lectures and note-taking. Despite the occasional disapproving glance from her professors, she remained focused and unbothered. She knew that her appearance was a statement, and she was prepared to defend it. During lunch, Zola's friends gathered around her, their curiosity piqued by her bold outfit. "Aren't you worried about getting in trouble?" asked Thandi, her best friend, with a hint of concern in her voice. Zola shrugged, a confident smile playing on her lips. "If I don't stand up for what I believe in, who will? Besides, it's just clothes. They don't define my abilities or my worth." As the afternoon classes began, Zola received a summons to the principal's office. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the confrontation she knew was coming. With her head held high, she made her way to Mr. Dlamini's office, her heels clicking defiantly against the polished floors. Mr. Dlamini's office was a stark contrast to the vibrant campus outside. The walls were lined with bookshelves, and a large wooden desk dominated the room. Mr. Dlamini himself sat behind it, his stern expression softening slightly as Zola entered. "Miss Zola, please have a seat," he said, gesturing to the chair opposite him. Zola complied, meeting his gaze with unwavering confidence. "Do you know why you're here?" Mr. Dlamini asked, his tone measured. Zola nodded. "I assume it's because of my outfit." "Indeed," Mr. Dlamini replied. "Mzansi University has a dress code for a reason. We believe it promotes a professional and respectful environment. Your attire, while expressive, does not align with these values." Zola took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "I understand the importance of professionalism, Mr. Dlamini, but I also believe that self-expression is crucial. My clothes are a part of who I am, and they don't affect my ability to learn or contribute to this university." Mr. Dlamini studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. "I appreciate your perspective, Miss Zola. However, rules are rules. I expect you to adhere to the dress code moving forward." Zola nodded, but her resolve remained unshaken. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Dlamini. I will consider your words." As she left the office, Zola knew that this was only the beginning. She was determined to find a way to balance her self-expression with the university's expectations, and she wouldn't back down without a fight. The next morning, Zola woke up with a renewed sense of determination. She knew that her conversation with Mr. Dlamini was just the beginning of her journey to challenge the university's dress code. As she stood in front of her closet, she carefully selected her outfit for the day, a bold mini-skirt paired with a bright top and her favorite high heels. Today she would make a statement. As she walked through the campus, she could feel the eyes of students and faculty on her. Some looked on with admiration, while others with disapproval. But Zola remained unfazed. She knew that change often came with resistance, and she was ready to face it head-on. During her lunch break, Zola decided to take her protest a step further. She gathered a group of like-minded students who also felt restricted by the dress code. Together, they made signs and banners advocating for the right to self-expression. "Clothes don't define us and express yourself" were some of the slogans they proudly displayed. The group marched through the campus, their voices echoing off the buildings. Students stopped to watch, some joining in the protest, while others took videos and photos to share on social media. The movement quickly gained momentum, and soon a large crowd had gathered in front of the main building. Zola stood at the front, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She knew that this protest would draw the attention of the administration, but she was ready to stand her ground. As she began to speak, her voice was strong and clear. "We are here today to stand up for our right to self-expression," Zola declared. "Our clothes do not define our abilities or our worth. We deserve the freedom to express ourselves in a way that feels true to who we are." The crowd erupted in applause, and Zola felt a surge of pride. She knew that this was just the beginning of their fight, but she was confident that they could make a difference. As the protest continued, Zola noticed Mr. Dlamini watching from a distance, his expression unreadable. She knew that their battle was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The protest had made waves across the campus, and Zola's bold stance had inspired many students. However, it also drew the ire of the administration. The following day, Zola received another summons to Mr. Dlamini's office. This time she knew the stakes were higher. As she walked into the office, she noticed a few other faculty members present, their expressions serious. Mr. Dlamini gestured for her to sit, his face stern but calm. "Miss Zola, your recent actions have caused quite a stir," he began. "While we appreciate your passion, your methods have disrupted the campus environment." Zola met his gaze, her resolve unwavering. "Mr. Dlamini, I believe in what I'm doing. The dress code is restrictive and doesn't allow us to express who we are. We're not just students. We're individuals with unique identities." One of the faculty members, Professor Nkosi, leaned forward. "Zola, we understand your perspective, but rules are in place for a reason. They ensure a level of decorum and respect within the university." Zola nodded, acknowledging their point. "I understand the need for rules, but they shouldn't stifle our individuality. There has to be a balance." Mr. Dlamini sighed, rubbing his temples. "We are willing to discuss potential changes to the dress code, but we need your cooperation. Disruptive protests are not the way to achieve this." Zola's heart raced. This was a small victory, a chance to open a dialogue. "I'm willing to work with you to find a solution that respects both the university's values and our right to self-expression." The room fell silent for a moment, the tension palpable. Finally, Mr. Dlamini nodded. "Very well, Miss Zola. We will form a committee to review the dress code. You will be a part of it. But until then, we expect you to adhere to the current rules." Zola agreed, feeling a mix of relief and determination. This was a step forward, a chance to make real change. As she left the office, she knew that the journey was far from over, but she was ready to continue fighting for what she believed in. The formation of the committee brought a new wave of hope to Zola and her supporters. Meetings were scheduled, and discussions about the dress code began in earnest. Zola felt a sense of accomplishment, knowing that her efforts were starting to make a difference. However, not everyone on campus shared her enthusiasm. As Zola walked through the hallways, she noticed the mixed reactions from her peers and faculty. Some students gave her encouraging smiles and thumbs up, while others avoided her gaze or whispered behind her back. The faculty's reactions were equally divided. Some were open to change, while others remained staunchly opposed. One afternoon, as Zola was heading to the committee meeting, she encountered Professor Mthembu, one of the most vocal critics of her protest. His disapproving glare was hard to miss. "Miss Zola," he called out, stopping her in her tracks. "A word, please." Zola turned to face him, her expression calm but resolute. "Yes, Professor Mthembu, I hope you understand the gravity of what you're doing," he said, his tone stern. "This isn't just about clothes. It's about maintaining order and respect within the university." Zola nodded, choosing her words carefully. "I understand, Professor, but I believe that respect goes both ways. We should be allowed to express ourselves while still adhering to the values of the university." Professor Mthembu shook his head, clearly unconvinced. "We'll see how long this idealism lasts. The real world is not as forgiving as you might think." Zola watched him walk away, feeling a mix of frustration and determination. She knew that changing minds would be a slow and challenging process, but she was committed to seeing it through. The committee meetings were intense, with heated debates and passionate arguments on both sides. Zola presented her case with clarity and conviction, emphasizing the importance of individuality and self-expression. Slowly but surely, she began to see a shift in the attitudes of some committee members. One evening, after a particularly long meeting, Zola sat with Thandi in the campus cafe, reflecting on the day's events. "Do you think we're really making a difference?" Thandi asked, her voice tinged with doubt. Zola smiled, her eyes shining with determination. "I believe we are. Change doesn't happen overnight, but every step we take brings us closer to a more inclusive and accepting environment." As they sipped their drinks, Zola felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with her bright colors and unwavering spirit. The committee's discussions continued, and Zola's influence grew stronger. However, the resistance from certain faculty members and students also intensified. The campus was abuzz with debates about the dress code, and Zola found herself at the center of it all. One morning, as Zola was preparing for another committee meeting, she received an email from Mr. Dlamini. The subject line read, "Urgent, meeting with the principal." Her heart skipped a beat as she opened the message. The meeting was scheduled for that afternoon, and the tone of the email suggested it was serious. Zola arrived at Mr. Dlamini's office, her mind racing with possibilities. As she entered, she saw Mr. Dlamini and several other senior faculty members seated around the table. The atmosphere was tense. "Miss Zola, please have a seat," Mr. Dlamini said, his voice calm but firm. "We need to discuss the recent developments regarding the dress code." Zola sat down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Of course, Mr. Dlamini, what seems to be the issue?" Mr. Dlamini sighed, leaning forward. "While we appreciate your efforts to bring about change, the protests and disruptions have caused significant unrest on campus. We have received numerous complaints from both students and faculty." Zola nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I understand, Mr. Dlamini, but I believe that these discussions are necessary for progress. Change often comes with challenges." Professor Nkosi, who had been supportive of Zola's cause, spoke up. "Zola, we admire your passion and dedication. However, we need to find a way to address these issues without causing further disruption." Zola took a deep breath, her resolve unwavering. "I agree, Professor Nkosi. I'm willing to work with the administration to find a solution that respects both the university's values and our right to self-expression." Mr. Dlamini nodded, his expression softening slightly. "We appreciate your willingness to cooperate, Miss Zola. We will continue to review the dress code and consider your input. However, we must insist that you adhere to the current rules in the meantime." Zola agreed, feeling a mix of relief and determination. She knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but she was committed to seeing it through. As she left the office, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The fight for self-expression was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever consequences came her way. The weeks following the meeting with Mr. Dlamini were a whirlwind of activity. The committee continued to meet regularly, and Zola's voice remained a powerful force in the discussions. Slowly but surely, progress was being made. The administration began to see the value in allowing students more freedom to express themselves, and compromises were being reached. One sunny afternoon, Zola stood in front of a large crowd gathered in the university's central courtyard. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Today was the day the new dress code policies would be announced, and Zola had been asked to speak. As she stepped up to the podium, she took a moment to look out at the sea of faces: students, faculty, and even some members of the administration. She felt a surge of pride and gratitude for everyone who had supported her along the way. "Thank you all for being here today," Zola began, her voice strong and clear. "This journey has been challenging, but it has also been incredibly rewarding. Together, we have shown that self-expression and respect can coexist. We have proven that our individuality is something to be celebrated, not suppressed." The crowd erupted in applause, and Zola felt tears of joy welling up in her eyes. She continued, "The new dress code policies reflect our commitment to creating an inclusive and accepting environment. They allow us to express who we are while still respecting the values of our university." As she spoke, Zola noticed Mr. Dlamini standing at the edge of the crowd, a small smile on his face. She knew that their journey had not been easy, but it had been worth it. The changes they had fought for would benefit future generations of students, allowing them to feel free and confident in their own skin. After the announcement, Zola was surrounded by friends and supporters, all eager to congratulate her. Thandi hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You did it, Zola. You really did it." Zola smiled, her heart full. "We did it, Thandi. This was a team effort, and I couldn't have done it without all of you." As the sun set over Mzansi University, Zola felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had stood up for what she believed in, faced resistance, and ultimately made a difference. The path to self-expression had been paved, and she knew that the future was bright for all those who would follow in her footsteps.